are really creating perverse incentives, and that we can accomplish a lot more by changing those incentives.
Right.
You know.
So you talked a little bit about the ownership of animals and the, you know, yeah, I mean, I've never heard of an endangered cow, you know, because people own them and it's profitable for people to own them. Has that rule keeping people from owning species that are endangered, has that aggravated the problem?
Yeah, certainly, I think so. I mean, you don't want them. You know, there's, in Texas, for example, the wildlife laws are such that, like most states, the native game is sort of the king's game, and it's the property of the state. So the deer and the other things like that are managed by the state of Texas. But in Texas, if you put exotic species on your land, then you own those species. There's no question about that. And a lot of people have gotten into raising exotic species there. And in some cases, they've even sent animals back to Africa to help replace depleted species over there.
Elephants?
They own those species. No, not elephants.
No elephants yet?
Yeah.
But would that be illegal? Could a person decide, I'd like to bring a herd of elephants or start breeding elephants here on my land? Would that even be legal? Would it be
I don't
difficult?
know, because there's an international agreement on endangered species called CITES, which also is bad in general.
Because if someone does want to start seeing if they could get elephants to breed on their land and have herds of wild elephants, they could. It would be very difficult to do.
I don't know the specifics of that, but I suspect it would have something to do with it. And the same thing in Africa. It's a question of property rights. The southern African countries are experimenting with maybe not property rights, but they're at least experimenting with sort of conservation through commerce. Local communities see the benefits of protecting elephants.
Because
they might let in one rich Texan a year to shoot one, and because of that, it quadruples everyone's income in that village, and suddenly they see those elephants as assets.
Right.
And they protect them, and if someone tries to poach them comes from somewhere else, you know, they basically stop them. I mean, this is a broad example, but before, when in Eastern Africa, where the attempt is more to build a wall between the people and the elephants, then those people see elephants as sort of a nuisance, really. They trample crops, they step on the odd child, knock over the odd house. I mean, they're a real pain. So those people go out and they might fill in a water hole, or if someone was interested in poaching them and pass some money around, they might be pretty interested in it. So,
a lot of these
looking for solutions
backfire.
that make things better for people and the environment.
So here, you want to shoot an elephant, it's $1 billion.
It's not that much. It's a lot, you know, and there are a number of people who are willing to pay it.
Right, and there's a sick elephant out there. I'm sure there's a sick elephant out there anyway that they probably need to get rid of. Probably.
There was a very interesting article in Mother Jones recently about hunting, and someone who came at it from this seems like kind of a barbaric thing to be doing, but he went out and went on a hunt and really changed his mind about. He still didn't like shooting those things, but he realized that the money that those people brought into this community had a dramatic effect on the way that community viewed that wildlife.
I'm not so hard on hunters. You know, I think hunting can be a spiritual thing for a lot of men. It's a very instinctive, and probably women as well, but mostly men. You see men doing it, but it's a very spiritual, instinctive kind of thing. For a lot of people, there's some connection there. But yeah, you know, I can see it as being, you know, barbaric as well from the other point of view. But you know, I
reaching out to everyone.
Right. If you can figure out a way to, also in a lot of places, the hunting will actually help the population of the animals so that they can survive. If they're overpopulating, then they can become extinct just by being overpopulated. You know, all this, talking about ecotourism, I remember there was a place in the U.S. when I was little that it was kind of a zoo where you drove your car through, and there were elephants and animals that they brought over from Africa. But I guess it got shut down for some reason. I don't know what it was, but
I don't know.
That would be interesting. It was called, was it Lion Country Safari?
Yeah.
I think that's what it was called. And I went there when I was little as well, but something happened to it and it didn't work out. But that's too bad that a lot of these environmental rules are not helping the way they should. And then also when you go in and you say, I don't like these rules, a lot of times you're attacked as being a person that doesn't care about the environment.
Yeah,
and accused of having different motivations. Is that true?
The accusations, sure.
Yeah? Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. No, yes.
That some people that are opposing these rules don't care about the environment?
Is it true?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, in the early example of business and regulation, there are a lot of people who kind of like a blanket sort of, just tell me what the rules are so I can, adapt, add the technology, and move on. And there's a lot of that. Keep out the little guy. We can put up with a lot of inefficient regulation if at least we know what it is.
That way we don't have any competition.
We can lock it in and move on.
It's better than competition. It's better than having to compete with a bunch of little people trying to make other businesses.
Yeah, and a lot of politics is save the children, save the environment. If it sounds nice, they're like the African example is an interesting sort of PR example. I mean, I explained it briefly, but for the reason there was a ban, when there still is a ban in international trade in ivory, is basically you can take a poster of an elephant that's been shot, and someone's taken a chainsaw and cut off the ivory, and that elephant's lying in the ground in the mud, and underneath it you write, "Ivory kills." And that's your message. That's a really powerful message.
Sure.
And on the face of it is true and makes a lot of sense. And to sit down and say, well, listen, it really has a lot to do with the underlying institutions, and the reason why that thing was poached and the ivory was sawed off is because that was the only the way local people could see any benefit from that animal. And if we could only allow them to have more control over the elephants and manage them and see the benefits of conservation and protecting those things, then we could start seeing more protection. But it's almost like saying, well, here's a poster and here's a book. And really, if you read the book, you'll understand why the poster isn't quite right. It's it's tough.
So basically, though, you don't have to kill the elephant in order to get the ivory from the elephant.
You do.
And you do?
Yeah, I don't think you get ivory without.
You can't put the animal to sleep with a dart or something like that and then saw them off and then. I mean, it can live without the tusk, can't it? In fact, in a lot of places, they do that to keep the poachers from killing the elephants. They put them to sleep. They cut off the tusks.
I think that's more rhinos. I'm not sure. Elephants.
Rhinos is. Well, yeah, I know they do that to rhinos as well. That's what I've heard with elephants. I don't know, but it seems that maybe if we didn't have the ban, maybe these elephants could be farmed by the local people and then not killed. And the ivory sold.
Yeah, well, there's actually an overpopulation of them in a lot of southern African countries. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons they were able to get some leniency in the ban in some southern African countries is that they've got stockpiles of ivory because they're dealing with an overpopulation problem and natural mortality. And they're trying to say we need the money from this ivory to fund our conservation efforts. And in some cases, those conservation efforts meant sort of population control because they had so many of them.
So they actually have made money from that. And so we have about 1 minute left to go. Thank you for coming out.
Sure, it was fun.
It's been fascinating. And if anyone else out there would like any more information about the Reason Foundation, they can go to reason.org.
That's right.
And you can, if you'd like any more information about the Libertarian Party, you can go to www.lp.org. Or you can give us a call at 1-800-ELECT-US, and we'll send you out a free packet of information. Thanks for watching. Don't give up, learn to live, show the world you're painted in. The colors there are so deep and rich. Who could resist this magical give up, learn to live, show
your fears begin